Everybody, Quantum here, and in this video I'm going to go over 6 potential decks you can play in the XYZ event that is starting February 20th, I believe. And these are going to range from like top tier decks to budget versions of top decks and like meta relevant decks that have been adapted to the XYZ event. So without a doubt, these are going to be the decks to play. And let's get straight into it, starting off with the best deck that you can possibly play, and it's still Zoodiac by far. Unhinged, kind of just all full power basically in terms of Master Duel. I know it's obviously has cards that are banned, but the reason that this deck is top tier is because you have so much room to run at any variety of hand traps that you want. You can run Ghost Bell, Winter Cherries, obviously you're going to run Ash Blossom, Maxi, Veilers, and of course the big thing for this event is Flying Sea. So this thing stops XYZ summons when your opponent special summons, or normal summons or special summons. So it basically shuts down their turn, right? Because this is an XYZ event and Flying Sea stops you from XYZ summoning. So the stove or the bug near the stove is OP in this event, and it's just a common, right? It's a normal, so you're definitely going to want to play that. But the Zoodiac engine is, pretty basic. It's essentially 9 cards, and then the rest is just, hand traps and board breakers. And you can really slim this down. You have a lot of flex spots, so if you don't have all these ultra rares, the core of the deck, and then you can kind of just build it the way you want, is really just like, these are staples, so is Ash Blossom and stuff, so you should have them, but the core of the deck is essentially like this. Oh, sorry, not the Pranker Tops either. It's basically just like 5 super rares, and then you can tech it out with whatever hand traps that you want or board breakers. And obviously, you have your staple cards. And then the extra deck, again, rares, you only have really to craft 1 ultra rare. So I would say 5 super rares, 1 ultra rare. The rest of the stuff is basically rare and normal. And then, attack options, whatever you want to do. So drill driver, you should have a Zeus, obviously. Zeus, the Draco package if you want as well. And I just opt to play Downer. But again, these are kind of like flex spots. I would say, you should have a Zeus. If you don't have a Zeus, what are you doing? But you really only need to craft the Trident, and then the rest is just like whatever you want to put in. So a budget deck that you can really tech out, which is nice, and it's why it's top tier, is because you basically disrupt and board break your opponent to death, and then you just Zoodiac combo them and win the game. So it's a very powerful deck, probably the best deck for the event. You can play budget, you can play expensive, however you want to play. The next kind of budget deck that you can also play is the Lyrilusc deck. So this heavily focuses on level 1 XYZ summons, and then you're definitely going to want to play the Draco package where you play the number F0s, and you can overlay obviously 2 XYZ level 1s into Utopic Future, and then make the Utopic Draco. And this thing is a monster negate and is indestructible by battle or card effects. So the reason that this is a budget deck is because essentially like the core of the deck is all normals and rares. You only have a few super rares. If you really boil it down to what you absolutely have to play, I wouldn't say even have to play, but just like in terms of if you want to like have the OTK option, it's really just like 3 super rares and in the Searcher spell. You may want to play 3 Wagtail, but 2 you can get by with, because again, it depends on what else you check out the deck with. And then in terms of the extra deck, I guess, yeah, you would probably want to make Starlings. So you probably want to open up a few of these packs, the Moonlit Avian Dance, because you probably don't want to craft these. Like I already have the Bird Up deck for like regular standard mode, so I have all these cards already. But you want probably 2 Nightingale, at least 2 Starling, so there's some super investments, and then you probably want the Dracos. And this card is really powerful, the Ensemble. So you are investing a little bit. Again, you probably should have Downard and Zeus, but essentially the core of the deck, I would say you keep 3 Fucho, but the core of the deck is like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ultra rares, and then maybe just like 1, 2, 3. Or actually, I'm not going to include Zeus as the ultra rare. So 4 ultra rares. And Utopic Draco has some utility in other decks. So you can really boil it down to 3 ultra rares if you want to get technical. And then the super rares, I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 super rares and 3 ultra rares. 7 super rares, 3 ultra rares if you really want to boil it down to like the core of the deck. And this is a deck that is translatable. You can play Lyrilusc Tri-Brigade is a pretty top deck in standard mode. It's very fun to play and pretty powerful, combining it with the Link monsters. But this is a deck that can do very, very well in the event because you spam out tons of monsters. It's very hard to shut this engine down. I mean, Flying Sea will shut it down, obviously, but with just regular negates that your opponent puts up, it's going to be very hard for them to shut it down. So it's a good option as well. Going into the next deck, not something that's Xyz, you can actually play Labrynth. So if you, I'll explain this in a second, but if you played Labrynth in standard mode, or you bought the pack when it came out, because Labrynth is a super fun deck to play and it's going to get some awesome support in the future, you can opt to play Labrynth. And there's a lot of versatility that you can have here. You do not want to play 48 cards. You want to play 40 for sure. And your extra deck obviously has to be 15, but I just put these extra cards in here to show you some tech options. So you can play things like Imperm, you can play things like Ice Dragon Prison, the Archfiend Glassy Glitch, the Welcome Labrynth is full strength. Labrynth is essentially full strength. What you lose is the pot cards. So you don't have like the digging spells like Pot of Extravagance, Pot of Duality. But who cares, because Labrynth can search for its own cards anyways with the monsters, and you have a bunch of traps to disrupt your opponent. Very, very powerful traps. You can also play the virus cards, which shuts down your opponent, stop them from link summoning at all. You can play Flying Sea in here if you want to for additional hand trap options. And then your Xyz monsters, again, the extra deck doesn't really matter. You don't even have to play an extra deck really. There's no Dogmatica Punishment in this deck. It's banned for this event, and the pots are banned as well. So you're not going to be like banishing cards from your extra deck. So you just play like whatever you have for like level 4s, because you might Xyz summon off like the Arianas or something, or you can put a couple like level 3s to make stuff between the Chandelier and Ash Blossom. But aside from that, it's basically a main deck, and you'd only build this really, obviously, if you had the Labrynth cards already. You probably want to make sure you play Lord as well, which is a pretty hefty, ultra rare investment. But if you built Labrynth, you probably have Lords anyway. So this is a very good option. Like I said, though, make sure you play 40, not 48. You definitely want to play 40 for Labrynth. Moving on to the next deck, Spright, the newest pack, the top tier deck that is taken over the metagame of Master Duel. It is viable. It loses obviously a lot of strength because you don't have Elf, but you don't necessarily need Elf. This deck can be very resilient because you spam a ton of monsters out on the board, kind of like Lyrilusc, but with level 2s, and it's, I would argue, probably a little bit more consistent. You would opt to play probably 3 Gigantic, but you have a lot of utility in the level 2 monsters, and you'd probably play the Utopic Draco package as well in this deck, because 2 level 2 Xyz into Utopic is pretty strong, and you'd also play Zeus as well, obviously, because it's Zeus, and it's literally like my favorite card probably in the game right now. It's like a Gundam, and it's super powerful. It's amazing. Anyways, yeah, you have some techie options. This is what Spright is also very good for. You can reduce like the Beaver package, put in more hand traps if you want. You're obviously playing Flying Sea, Maxi, Ash Blossom. You can tech it out with Veilers, Imperm. So again, a lot of disruption because the core Spright engine is fairly small. You're essentially translating Runic Spright to like Disruption Spright, essentially. So the Spright engine is more or less full power. Like I said, you do lose obviously like the IP Masquerena, Spright Elf, Avermax plays and stuff like that. But hey, no one else has those cards either. No one else has Link monsters or Fusion monsters, etc. So Spright can definitely contend in this event. It is a good option if you have built Spright, which I did build on my alt account, and I'm probably going to play that. If you're interested, subscribe to the channel to see that as well. Moving on, spicy pick. You can actually play Dark Magician. Probably. I haven't actually built it to try, but it is viable because, hey, if you built the Dark Magician structure deck, or sorry, you bought the Dark Magician structure deck and you built the deck for Legend Anthology, you probably have all these cards already, and well, you can translate it over to the Xyz event. You can play some super powerful level 7 Xyz monsters that if you get 2 Dark Magicians out in the field, you just start making powerful monsters, and, you know, Big Eye, take your opponent's monsters. The Ebon Illusion Magician, Dark Arm Dragon, this is just a rare. Theublosis, hey, it's like you're playing Kashtira in Master Duel. Number 76 Harmonizer, the Red Eyes Dragon for burn, you know, Tax Dragon is back in Xyz form, Ebon High Magician, and Titanic Moth. Obviously, you can play some other cards that are like ultra rares too, but obviously that requires investment. But this is like the budget deck too. This is super budget because you essentially just buy 3 of the structure deck and you are good to go. So even more budget than Lyrilusc, but I don't think this is probably going to be top tier. But half of Yu-Gi-Oh! Honestly is, do you know how to play your deck? Because it's pointless building a top tier deck if you don't know how to play it properly, right? It takes too long to learn how to play it and learn the matchups. If you know how to play Dark Magician, this is actually a very viable option because you'll probably just outplay your opponent because you know how the deck works if you've already practiced with this deck. So it is definitely a viable option, and you can build it however you want, obviously. But the core of the deck should be fairly free, and then you just invest in a couple of super rares for the extra deck, whatever you want. You can obviously keep this very cheap because you do have some very powerful rare level 7s that you can use as well. And you can opt to like play the ritual version, play one more Illusion of Chaos, play the other ritual Dark Magician monster, put in some advanced ritual arts that send Dark Magician from the deck to the graveyard. So there's a lot of other techie options that you could play with this deck as well that make it viable. So Dark Magician, definitely an option that you can play as well. I guess I'm on my final pick here, and this is just because it's close to my heart. This is the deck I first started with when I returned to Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's Floowandereeze. So Floowandereeze doesn't care about the extra deck, so again, you can kind of put whatever you want in here. You don't really need to put anything, probably a couple of level 1s. But is Zombie World legal for this event? I can't imagine anybody's playing zombies anyways. But no one's going to be playing Zombie World. And it's limited to 1 anyways. Necro World Banshee is not limited, but yeah, Floowandereeze can do pretty well, I think. I mean, you would think, hey, Robina is limited to 1, Empin is limited to 1, the deck is garbage. No, you just need, and you have no pots. But it's really not because, I mean, Planet Pathfinder, sack it, get map, activate map, start your combo. You are maxing out on Stree and Toucan to increase your consistency because you're not playing pots. And then you're just playing draw spells. Maxi and Floowandereeze. Like, what do you know? This is definitely a spicy option. And you can definitely shut down your opponent with Dreaming Town, 2 rises because you're constantly cycling stuff back to the deck. And once your birds are in rotation, I mean, if you've watched my channel or you've seen Floowandereeze in action, you know that this deck is going to clean house. The only problem with this deck is, like I mentioned with Zoodiac and Spright, if you run into people running like 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Veiler, you're going to get hand trapped to death, and that really shuts the deck down. But if they can't OTK you, they're going to run out of hand traps eventually. This deck is very resilient in kind of keeping pace. So, you can Book of Moon, the Veilers, and the Imperms. So you can dodge it that way, and you can dodge it with Advent, obviously. So you have 6 dodges there, and then you chain block for Ash. So the deck isn't dead, and you don't have to worry about people playing Max C and Flying C because you don't care about that. So that's the edge Floowandereeze has. It has pros, it has cons. You play some techie cards to evade some of the other hand traps people might be playing in like Zoodiacs, but it's also an option if you have Floowandereeze built already. And I think actually, I guess this is kind of budget, right? You can probably just build this too, really. I mean, 4 super rares right here, 1 ultra rare in Apex, which you can argue you might not even need to play, 1 super rare in Empin, 2 super rares here. Oh, I guess never mind. Sorry, no. It's not budget because yeah, the Advents are ultras, and hey, I mean, if you were really gonna play this seriously, you probably want to play Upstarts too, and those are ultras. So never mind, it's not budget. Scrap that. But anyways, that's the video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it, gave you some ideas to play. Let me know what you're playing in the comment section below. If you're trying to go budget, or if you have a good deck that you can translate over to the event, or you're building something new to try. But yeah, this is my first XYZ event. I didn't play back when the game first came out, so I'll see how I do with probably a budget deck and maybe Floowandereeze, testing it out a little bit. But that's the video. Thank you for watching. Quantum is out.